Bosch Communications Systems, a business unit of Bosch Security Systems, is now one of the world's leading manufacturers and suppliers of professional audio, wireless, life safety, and communication equipment. Bosch Communications Systems offers complete system solutions for the world's most critical high-profile installations and events. Together, the future sounds secure.
Welcome back. You're watching VIEWpoint. I'm Mark Fritz, and with me is Chris Lyons. Chris, earlier we touched on the technical side of the white spaces issue and some of the legislative action that may or may not be in the works. Let's get down and dirty to the gist of this issue. As an integration firm and as a possible end user, what are some of the markets that are going to be affected by a proliferation of additional wireless devices on an already crowded spectrum?
Well, it really affects anybody who uses a wireless microphone in a venue that's got an audience, because the real risk of the white spaces issue is the portable devices that people are going to be carrying with them, who are going to show up in a house of worship, a theater, a school auditorium, a rock concert, or any other venue like that.
What happens, I know typically in a live performance situation, you have a load in, a sound check, and then you may be sitting dark for 1 to 2 hours until the audience comes in. Do you see a problem as the doors open and all these people walk in, that what previously was a clean channel, you may now have other devices operating? Are there measures there to protect against that?
Well, that's what the FCC is testing right now. They're looking at interference protection measures that would make these devices sort of sniff the airwaves before they start transmitting and identify wireless microphones, intercom systems, and TV channels and stay off of those frequencies. So if that works as it's planned to, we really shouldn't have too many instances of interference.
Now, will that, if that device has detected a channel that's clean and is operating, and then a wireless microphone comes in and turns on and now is on that channel, will the personal device leave that and go back and hunt for another channel?
Yes, that's the way it's supposed to work. I haven't seen the FCC's decision yet on what the time frame is for that to happen, whether it's within 1 second or 5 seconds or 1.5 minutes or whatever. Those details are still kind of being worked out. But the general principle is it'll keep rechecking on a continuous basis, and if it detects another user, it'll leave that frequency.
How do you see this affecting a large touring production, a Broadway-style show that typically travels with anywhere from 30 to 40 wireless mics?
Well, it's going to be the large users that are going to have the most trouble with this, because if anything, it'll just make it a little bit more difficult to get a large number of wireless devices on the air, whether it's mics, intercoms, personal in-ear monitors, and so forth. So for anybody who's using, 30, 40, 50, or 100 channels of wireless, those are the people that are going to have the most problems. People that are using, half a dozen or a dozen or even 20 systems, there's more than enough spectrum in and around television channels to make it pretty easy to do that.
Chris, we mentioned the protection scheme that is in place or will be in place. Do you see this being more of an issue in a larger market versus a smaller market? What is your feeling on that?
It's definitely going to have more of an impact in large metropolitan areas, because the simple economics of it is that the companies that want to sell these new white space devices and provide those services are going to make the most revenue where there are lots of users. So that means the top cities in the country where there's lots of mobile phones, lots of PDAs, and people who use that kind of technology. This is unlikely to be a big problem out in the middle of Montana or somewhere like that. But then again, there aren't too many wireless microphones operating out there either. So maybe it'll cause a shift in where people book their shows.
Chris, we've touched on the large-scale users a little bit. Let's look at the smaller users, houses of worship, educational markets, K through 12 school systems. How is this issue going to affect their use of wireless mics?
Well, for people who are using systems built in the last 5 years or so, most of those systems are frequency synthesized, so the frequency is easily adjustable even by the end user, which means that if any interference does arise, it's going to be a fairly simple matter to adjust down to a lower frequency or higher frequency to get away from it. So a little bit of retuning is all that's going to be required. The people that will have the most trouble are maybe some of the houses of worship or educational installs that are using wireless mics that were made 10, 15, even 20 years ago that are locked on a single frequency and can't easily be changed. Some of those installations will probably have to think about upgrading to newer equipment.
Looking at that point, it's kind of been tradition, obviously, venues with a limited budget tend to buy less expensive equipment. Is it going to be more critical for an upgrade to be a little better quality because of this potential for additional interference?
Well, fortunately, while all this has been going on, the wireless mic industry has evolved products and lowered price points fairly regularly. So the result is that for what you might have paid $1,000 or $1,500 10 or 15 years ago for a wireless system that was locked on a single crystal controlled frequency, now for even less than that kind of money, you can get a synthesized system that tunes hundreds or even 1,000 different frequencies. So the pace of product development has meant that for the same money and maybe even less, they can get a much better system than they already have.
Now, these existing systems typically operate on a specific band. You may have 200 or 300 or more channels within a band. Will it be an easy fix if somebody is in a band that is going to be experiencing more activity to be able to move that? Can they be sent back in for factory?
In some cases that's possible, where if you have a system that's on a very high range of frequencies, for instance, that perhaps overlaps the new public safety frequency blocks, those are people that probably want to think about having those refurbished or updated to tune in a lower frequency range that stays down in the new television channel band. Most products accommodate that on some level or other.
What about maybe a misconception? We touched on it briefly in the intro that as this develops and we start telling clients that your wireless system is going to either be obsolete or is going to be affected, we need you to buy the latest, product B or whatnot. Can you see some resistance, I guess, from the users thinking, well, why again? Whose fault is this?
That's probably very likely, because a lot of people who use audiovisual equipment keep on using it until it finally just stops working. And so if the system's working great today, they may have very little inclination to believe that it won't keep working tomorrow or the next week after. This is where the role of the integrator is going to be crucial in informing the client about the difference, the changes in the regulatory picture and the spectrum allocations, and why there are some changes coming that might make it a valid choice to upgrade a system now before any interference occurs. Because we know what will happen is they'll wait to the last minute, a week before the big Christmas or holiday production, and then the phones will start ringing when they say, oh, we've got to replace all these right away.
Thank you for watching this edition of VIEWpoint. I'm Mark Fritz with guest Chris Lyons. Please be sure to join us in 2 weeks when we take a look at emerging technologies in the wireless microphone industry. Chris, thank you again for your time.
Thanks, Mark.